Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, a prominent figure in the British Romantic movement, was born on October 21, 1772, in Devonshire, England. He was the youngest of 14 children, and his father, a parish vicar and schoolmaster, had hopes of Coleridge becoming a clergyman. Coleridge's early education took place at his father's school, where he displayed a keen interest in reading and learning. After his father's death in 1781, Coleridge attended Christ's Hospital School in London, where he formed a lifelong friendship with Charles Lamb. During his time in London, he also developed a close relationship with Tom Evans, a classmate who introduced him to the Evans family. Coleridge's affection for Tom's older sister Mary marked an important chapter in his life. Despite his father's aspirations for him to enter the clergy, Coleridge's views began to shift during his first year at the University of Cambridge in 1791. Influenced by the controversial Unitarian beliefs of a fellow student, William Friend, Coleridge embraced a more liberal perspective. However, financial difficulties plagued him, and he accumulated significant debts during his time at Cambridge, which were ultimately settled by his brothers. In 1794, while en route to Wales, Coleridge met Robert Southey, another student, and the two quickly developed a deep friendship. Delaying his trip, Coleridge engaged in philosophical discussions with Southey, and together they conceived a vision of pantisocracy, a community of equality and shared governance. Their plan involved emigrating to the New World with 10 other families to establish a communal settlement along the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania. They envisioned a society where the workload would be shared, a vast library would be maintained, and freedom of religious and political beliefs would be upheld. However, upon returning from a visit to Wales, Coleridge discovered that Southey had become engaged to Edith Fricker, and the plan for communal living was in jeopardy. In response, Coleridge decided to marry another Fricker daughter, Sarah, in 1795, even though his heart remained with Mary Evans, who was already engaged to someone else. Coleridge's marriage proved to be unhappy, and he spent a significant amount of time apart from his wife. During this period, Coleridge and Southey collaborated on a play titled The Fall of Robespierre, but their vision of pantisocracy was never realized. Financial difficulties persisted, and Coleridge's dependence on the support of others continued throughout his life. In 1795, Coleridge formed a profound friendship with William Wordsworth, which had a profound influence on Coleridge's poetic style. Under Wordsworth's influence, Coleridge's poetry shifted towards a more natural and contemplative style. The poems that emerged from this period, known as the conversation poems, including the Aeolian Harp and this Lime Tree Bower in my Prison, often featured Coleridge's intimate friends and their experiences as subjects. In 1796, Coleridge published his first volume of poetry, Poems on Various Subjects, and started his own political publication, The Watchman, which ran for 10 issues. The collaboration with Wordsworth in 1797 to 1798 led to the joint publication of Lyrical Ballads, a collection considered the inaugural work of Romantic school of poetry. This volume included one of Coleridge's most famous works, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Following the publication of Lyrical Ballads, Coleridge embarked on a journey to the European continent with Wordsworth. During his stay in Germany, he delved into the philosophies of Immanuel Kant, Jacob Boehme, and G. E. Lessing. He also mastered the German language and began translating German literature. Upon his return to England in 1800, Coleridge settled in Keswick and continued to write and lecture on literature and philosophy. However, financial challenges, health issues, and opium addiction plagued him throughout his life. In 1816, he moved in with the physician James Gilman, where he sought treatment for his opium addiction. In 1817, Coleridge published Biographia Literaria, which featured his most acclaimed literary criticism. He continued to produce both poetry and prose, including Sibylline Leaves, Aids to Reflection, and Church and State. He passed away in London on July 25, 1834. Notable works by Samuel Taylor Coleridge include Biographia Literaria, Christabel, Dejection and Ode, Frost at Midnight, Kubla Khan, Lyrical Ballads, On the Constitution of the Church and State, and The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner is the longest major poem by the English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It was written in 1797 to 1798 and first published in 1798 as part of the first edition of Lyrical Ballads. Some modern editions of the poem use a revised version printed in 1870, which includes a gloss. Along with other poems and lyrical ballads, this work is considered a significant shift in the trajectory of modern poetry and the emergence of British Romantic literature. The poem's narrative revolves around the experiences of an old sailor who has returned from a lengthy sea voyage. He detains a young wedding guest on his way to a wedding ceremony and proceeds to narrate his extraordinary and eerie tale. The wedding guest's reaction evolves from confusion to impatience, fear, and ultimately fascination as the mariner's story unfolds. Coleridge employs narrative techniques such as personification and repetition to evoke various modes in different parts of the poem, creating a sense of danger, the supernatural, or serenity. In a concise summary of the poem, three young men are en route to a wedding when one of them is detained by an aged mariner. The young wedding guest initially protests but is captivated by the mariner's intense gaze and is compelled to listen to his strange story. The mariner recounts a sea voyage that begins in cheerful, sunny waters but is soon engulfed by a violent storm, leading the ship into an icy and foggy realm. The crew encounters an albatross, which initially brings good fortune. However, when the mariner impulsively kills the bird with his crossbow, the crew's reactions shift from anger to praise as they blame the albatross for the recent bad weather. The ship becomes stranded in a calm, eerie sea, and the sailors suffer from a lack of water and surreal, ghostly occurrences. The poem takes a supernatural turn when the specters of death and life in death appear aboard a ghostly ship and begin casting dice. As life and death wins, she signals the sunset and the sailors perish one by one. The mariner, spared from death, is left alone with the corpses and is cursed by the glare of their eyes. He endures this haunting sight for 7 days and nights. As the moon rises and casts the ship's shadow on the water, the mariner's heart softens and he finds himself able to pray. His prayers release him from the curse and the corpse of the albatross falls from his neck, sinking into the sea. This transformative moment allows him to connect with the beauty of the water snakes that surround the ship, and he blesses them. The poem is a captivating and allegorical narrative that explores themes of guilt, redemption, and the supernatural and the beauty of nature. It is a seminal work in English literature and a cornerstone of the Romantic movement, known for its vivid and atmospheric storytelling. Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan, or A Vision in a Dream, is a poetic fragment by Samuel Taylor Coleridge published in 1816. Coleridge claimed to have composed this 54-line work during an opium-induced dream, inspired by reading about Shangdu, the summer capital of Kubla Khan's Mongol-led Yuan dynasty in China. The poem reflects Coleridge's fascination with the exotic and the imaginative power of the mind. Coleridge's preface to Kubla Khan describes how the poem came to be. He wrote it after experiencing the opium-influenced dream, which provided him with several hundred lines of poetry. But he could only remember this fragment upon waking due to an interruption by a person from Porlock. As a result, the poem remained unfinished according to its original plan of 200 to 300 lines. Coleridge initially kept it for private readings among friends until 1816, when Lord Byron prompted its publication. In its early days, Kubla Khan faced criticism and skepticism from some of Coleridge's contemporaries who questioned the authenticity of the poem's origin. However, with time, critics began to appreciate the work and it is now widely admired. Kubla Khan is regarded as one of Coleridge's greatest poems alongside the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Christabel. It is celebrated as a prime example of English Romanticism and is frequently anthologized. The poem is divided into 3 irregular stanzas that move fluidly between different times and places. The first stanza introduces Kubla Khan's pleasure dome, situated near the river Alf, enclosed by fortified walls, lush gardens, and forests. The second stanza describes a fantastical and mysterious landscape, including a geyser, the sacred river Alf, and an eruption that coincides with the prophecy of war. The third stanza shifts to a first-person perspective as the narrator recalls a vision of a woman playing a dulcimer. The narrator wishes to revive her song, which would in turn rejuvenate the pleasure dome with music, potentially invoking a warning about an alarming male figure. Kubla Khan is known for its imaginative and exotic imagery, portraying the power of nature and the creative process. It explores themes of inspiration, the connection between the creative mind and the natural world, and the artistic process. The poem stands as a testament to Coleridge's skill in crafting vivid and dreamlike poetic landscapes. It is considered a significant work in English literature and remains a captivating example of romantic poetry.